Greetings. We are anonymous. Sylvia Browne. You claim to be a psychic. You claim to be able to speak with the dead. We know you are a fraud. We know you are driven by greed. It is time for us to expose you. It is time we show people your tactics, your lies, your misinformed and dangerous medical advice. You claim you use God-given powers to help people. You go on television. You take randomly asked questions from strangers. You claim you are helping those people. But in reality, you are lying to them. You are using some well-known social engineering tactics called cold reading. Although sometimes your cold reading can look impressive to an untrained person, it is a simple guessing game you play with your victims. You make general statements and expect them to acknowledge it if you are correct. If they say you are not correct, you simply tell them they are the one who is wrong, or that they are not making the connection to their own life. You then quickly move on to your next guess. It's basically a fast-paced game of hit and miss. You're credited for the hits. They're blamed for the missed. Unfortunately for you, there is a major problem that occurs when you are playing your guessing game. Quite often, you are so horribly wrong. That, mixed with the fact you are a media-hungry pig, gives us access to more material necessary for showing the world how much of a fraud you really are. For example, these grieving parents went on television to ask you how their daughter had died. You quickly told them that she had been shot. They said, no, she had just collapsed in her room. You then said she was hit in the chest somehow. The parents said, nothing was found in the autopsy. You then said, you do not care. It looks like something hit her in the chest. Once again the parents said, but nothing was found at the autopsy. You then insisted that she was somehow hit in her chest with something sharp. It was then your accomplice in crime, Montel, opened his mouth. He asked the parents if their daughter played sports. They said, yes. Montel then insinuated she must have been hit in the chest with something while playing sports earlier that day, causing her death later that night. Although you were not correct, he conveniently bailed you out and completely ignored the fact you mentioned the girl was shot. He is a fraud just like you. Another example, back in 1999, you were on Montel talking with the grandmother of 6-year-old Opal Jo Jennings. She was abducted in front of her grandparents' home. You told the grandmother that Opal was alive, she was sold into slavery, and she is now in Japan. Both you and Montel promised the grandmother you would help find Opal after the show. Neither of you ever attempted to do so. You lied to the grandmother. You had no clue where Opal was. You had no intent of helping her find Opal. You are both just lying greedy pigs. Later that year, convicted child molester Richard Lee Franks was arrested and later found guilty of her abduction. In late 2003, her body was found just 13 miles away from the place she was taken from. It was also discovered that she had been killed within hours after being abducted. How appalling is that? You said she was alive. You gave the family false hope. You gave the authorities false leads. And for what? So you could sell more books? So any other families with missing children would pay you to help find them. Your greed is truly mind-blowing. In 2002, Sean Hornbeck went missing. Months later, his parents went on Montel to speak with you about what had happened to their son. You told them he was taken in a blue-colored Impala with tail fins. Also, he was taken by a dark-skinned, Hispanic-looking man with long red locks. And most devastating of all, you said that Sean was dead. After the show, Sean's parents contacted you in hopes you would help them find his body. You agreed to do it. But it would cost them $700 per hour. They passed and kept up hope while looking for Sean. As usual, it turns out you were lying to them. On January the 12th, 2007, 15-year-old Sean Hornbeck was found alive. He had been abducted by a white man with short hair who drove a white pickup truck named Michael Devlin. Have you no shame, Sylvia? None at all? On January the 2nd, 2006, there was an explosion at the Sago Mine in West Virginia, resulting in 13 miners being trapped inside. Then 2 days later, it was reported that 12 of the 13 miners were still alive. Shortly after the news reports, you were on the late-night radio show called Coast to Coast with host George Morey. Morey asked you if you had felt they would be found alive. You said, "I knew they were going to be found." Then later during your interview, it was reported that there was a mix-up earlier. Only one miner was still alive and 12 miners had died. It was then you changed your story. You said, "I don't really think there's anybody alive. If there is, I think maybe only one. But I just don't think they are alive." And later you said, "I did not believe that they were alive. I just believed that they were gone." First your claim was you knew they would be found. Then your claim was you knew they all were dead. Still, in the end you were wrong. 12 of the miners died, and one man came out alive. With 2 guesses, and with the help of news reports, you were still wrong. How very low of you, Sylvia. These are real people's lives you are commenting on here. This is not some kind of meaningless guessing game. You have made literally hundreds of blunders just like the examples shown. Many of them are documented and shared on StopSylviaBrowne.com. In early 2007, you had your lawyer try to threaten this man into shutting his website about you down. And why would you want him to shut down his site? Because he shares transcripts of all your horrible mistakes? Because he shared with the world you are a criminal who tried to pull off a gold mine for sale scam back in 1988, but then was arrested? Or is it because he has your college transcripts, and for years you claimed you have a master's degree in English, but in fact you haven't even earned a bachelor's degree? And he is not the only person who has questioned your bullshit claims. This man, James Randi, has offered you, time and time again, the opportunity to test your claims in a double-blind test. If you pass the test, Mr. Randi will give you $1 million of his own money. Although if confronted on TV you accept the challenge, you never follow through and take it. You once even told Mr. Randi, who by far is one of your biggest critics, you do not need his money. So in turn you would not take his test. That is ironic. If any of your beloved followers need to talk about a missing or dead loved one, you will charge them $750 for a 20 to 30-minute conversation. It is not only bald-headed skeptical old men with beards who see right through you. In fact, there are people from many walks of life that are sick of you and all the others who use cold reading to lie about being psychic. For example, there are magicians, newscasters, scientists, and writers. These people, and many, many more, know you are a fraud and are sick of you taking advantage of people's griefs, hard times, and religious beliefs, all in the simple name of making a quick profit. Now, Sylvia, we do not expect you to care what we are saying here. We do not expect you to stop your scams. We do not expect you to start having compassion for your victims. Also, we do not expect your committed followers to change their opinions about you. Our goals here are better than that. We will minimize the profits of con artists like you by making sure the next generations have the knowledge needed to not fall for such trickery. We will make sure in the future people like you are known liars and not seen as some kind of mystical prophets. The shared knowledge of your tricks and tactics is 10 times more powerful than you could ever imagine. There is no lie you can tell that will stop that knowledge from flowing from mind to mind, family to family, generation to generation. Then maybe someday, people like you will have to prove your claims. Then maybe someday, people like you will be held responsible for your lies. Then maybe one day, the fight will be over. And on that day, your kind will prey on vulnerable people no more.
I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!"